In addition to pseudo elements, we also have something called pseudo classes. Now, these selectors are pretty cool. They're primarily used for controlling the formatting of hyperlinks. So maybe what we should do is go and insert a hyperlink somewhere in our document, and then we'll go about using pseudo class selectors to control the formatting of the hyperlinks. Flip over into my code, and you can go and throw in a hyperlink really wherever you want. I want to keep this pretty simple, pretty straightforward. I want to focus more on the pseudo classes rather than setting hyperlinks. So just find a spot somewhere, maybe in that first paragraph, open angle bracket, A space, href equals, and then in quotes, I'm just going to put a hash mark or a number sign. That's what's referred to, by the way, as a null link or a dummy link, a link that doesn't go anywhere. It behaves like a hyperlink. It's clickable, but it doesn't actually go anywhere. Alternatively, you could actually type in a web URL there if you want, or a resource online, something like that. Okay, so there's the opening tag for my hyperlink, and then move my cursor down a little bit inside the text, and I'll go and close the hyperlink just like that. So then if I save my document and go and refresh the browser, there we go. There's my hyperlink. Nice and obvious there. Hyperlinks have default formatting that we are all well aware of. We've seen this a million times. Hyperlinks are typically blue and underlined. Sometimes they're italicized as well. After we click a hyperlink, typically they change color. They change to purple, right? But of course, we're going to control that behavior using pseudo classes. So I'm going to head back to my code, to my internal style sheet. Give yourself a little bit of room in there. I'm actually going to type out the 4 pseudo classes first, and then we'll start messing around with some CSS properties. Now, whenever I'm controlling the formatting of my hyperlinks using pseudo classes, this is always how I do it because I don't want to goof it up. I go A:\link, and then put in my curly brackets. So in other words, A is my anchor, my hyperlink, and then there's the pseudo class itself, :link, sort of like what we saw earlier. Okay, now there's 4 of these guys, a link, and then a visited. And I'm putting these in a very specific order because this, again, is the part that I don't want to goof up. So it's got to go in this exact order, a link, a visited, and then a hover. And then the last guy is a active. This is just myself, but even if I'm not going to bother using 1 or 2 of these, I throw them all in there anyway, and maybe I'll just leave them empty. Now, let me define exactly what each of these does, and then we'll actually go and apply some formatting. So a link, that's a standard hyperlink, just the default formatting for a hyperlink that's sitting on the page. A visited, as you might guess, is the formatting of the hyperlink after it's been clicked, after it's been visited. A hover is how the link looks when the visitor comes along and moves their mouse over top of the link. And then a active, a active I never actually use. That's when the mouse button actually clicks down the user's mouse button, and it happens so fast, most people don't even notice it. So usually I don't even bother with a active, but I'm particularly interested in the first 3. So what sorts of things can we do to our hyperlinks? Well, let's try this out here. For instance, I'm just going to go back to my browser for a second. Maybe I don't want my hyperlinks to be blue. Maybe I want them to be black to match the rest of the text inside the paragraph. So what I'll do inside the a link curly brackets is I'll go and change the color to black, something like this. Save it up, and then back over to the browser and refresh, and now my hyperlink, it's still a hyperlink. I still get that pointing cursor there, but of course now the text is black. What else can we do? Well, how about a little bit of very simple, very delicate interactivity, just to sort of allow the user to have a little bit of feedback as they're working inside my site. So for a hover, what I'll do is I'll remove the underline. How am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to go text hyphen decoration, :space, none, just like that. So no text decoration, and then refresh my browser. And then now when I move my mouse over top of the hyperlink, the underline disappears, just like that. Now you can actually do the opposite if you want. You could have the underline appear when someone moves their mouse over top of the hyperlink there. But of course, with the color being black, they wouldn't know that it's actually a hyperlink. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to throw on another property here, text decoration, and then I'll set that to none. Save and then refresh. And now the text just looks like paragraph text, right? They don't know that it's actually clickable just by glancing at it. So instead, I should really change my color. As a matter of fact, I'd like to use that same blue color that I've been using all the way along. So I'm going to go and type that in, 3366FF. And then for the hover, I'm going to change my text decoration to underline. Save this and refresh. So now it's blue, so it looks like a hyperlink, and then when the user moves their mouse over top, they get that underline. That's pretty much everything that I wanted to show you, but of course, you could be much more creative than what I'm doing here. You can certainly go and experiment with the A visited. So in other words, what does the link look like after it's been clicked? Maybe you want to look like sort of a light gray, like a washed out gray, because it's already been clicked. You might want to experiment with A active as well. And I definitely encourage you, as always, to experiment with more CSS properties to see what you can come up with. But in any regard, there you go. There's your pseudo classes, or in other words, controlling your hyperlinks with CSS.